Hello, hello, hello. Thank you and welcome back to the Art of Waking podcast. My name is Danan Sarah. And today we have a very, very special guest. And I'm just going to read her bio because it's fucking fantastic. And I want you to meet her. So Leora has been an entrepreneur since the age of 16, doing nails out of her parents' basement. She was one of the top 10 nail techs in Detroit. I have seen the pictures. I can attest. In the 90s, her true passion was spending time listening to her clients and the connection that they shared. She took this on to New York City, where she became a celebrity makeup artist, doing the likes of Rihanna and many others. During her early ventures in the Big Apple, Leora tapped deeply into her calling of listening and empowering others to step into their greatness. She began her company, Goddess on the Go, in 2012 and took her live events to Detroit and Los Angeles. When she became a mom, she knew she no longer wanted to be on the road every 3 months and became an author to widen her reach. Leora has written 2 books and has spoken at schools and companies throughout the US. She currently works with organizations and private clients to support them around living in their purpose, healing family and important relationships, feeling comfortable in their bodies, and knowing that abundance is their natural state. Leora is a trained family constellation facilitator, somatic healer, and tantric coach. She's also part of the Detroit Power of You Teens organization that works with girls ages 11 to 17 to empower them through mentorship, entrepreneurship, and supporting them with resources to live a life they feel inspired by. Listen, if you're not inspired by that biography, then you may wish to find another podcast because this one is about to be litty. Everybody, please welcome Leora.
Let's get the party started.
Hi, babe.
Hi, beautiful.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And full disclosure, I have to say, I've worked with Leora. I know of her magic and being a part of her tribe. And this is really about how best can we share our people? How best can we share our friends that are our medicine?
Yes.
That part, right?
Yep. And you've been my medicine as well. I've gotten a chance to work with you as well. And that's the beautiful thing, right, about sisterhood is we share knowledge, we share resources, and we share love between the two of each other. Yeah. Support. I mean, there's so much to say.
Yes, and that is part of the reason why I have you here, because I want to talk about that. But first, just tell us about your work in the world. I mean, we got a flavor from that. And I mean, I did not know you did Rihanna's makeup.
I did. I mean, back in the days, I assisted her makeup artist, but her makeup artist.
Listen, you were in the room.
Yeah, I was in the room with her. Her makeup artist left her with me all day long. So I had to keep doing her face from 5 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night. She dropped me off in our little, SUV. We sat in the back seat and chatted and laughed. She's like a real person.
I love that. I love that.
Really,
and that is so you to just be like, yeah,
just drop me off.
No big deal.
Yeah. Thanks, Rihanna.
But tell us about everything you do.
Sure. So I'm a trained family constellation facilitator, somatic, and tantra teacher. And I know that's like, what? That's a lot. So it really is a buffet. But each one of those things, right, it feeds off of each other. And going on my own journey, each one of these things kind of like helped me see another side of myself that I couldn't see before.
Yes.
It helped me to heal pieces that were like divinely aligned. And I was like, oh, this is the next thing for me. And if I would have started, I wouldn't have been ready to start with Tantra or probably even family constellation.
Because I mean, seriously, that's like deep in.
That's
like just push you off the cliff into that work. Can you talk to us about like somatic?
Yeah. Let's start with somatics. So the body holds this intelligence, and it stores all these emotions, right? That we have no idea what to do with. I mean, we didn't learn about how to emote in elementary school, in middle school and high school, in college. And so we have all this full range of emotions that we don't know what to do with. And we're like, I'm angry, but I've been taught that I have to be a nice person. Or I'm sad, but I've been taught that I just need to keep going and push through. Or I got all this joy in my body, but like the world tells me that everyone around me is suffering. So who am I to feel my joy?
Woo,
And
yeah.
so what do? We push down, we push down, we push down. So with somatic work, I help my clients really give the body a language that the mouth cannot express.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't always have words to say.
I love that. Let's pause on that for a second. To give the body a language that words can't express. That's fantastic.
I mean,
because we really can't. Like sometimes I mean, and I'm speaking from my own experience, sometimes I have been in states that I couldn't put a finger on whatsoever, other than I need to move. There's something right, you know, like rah, 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 or sad sound, but it had no word.
It didn't have a word. It may have had a shout. It may have had a sound, like you said. It may had needed to be squeezed or resourced or touched in a certain way, like the back of your shoulder or your neck, or just squeezing the arms, coming back into our body. So many of us are not, which I'll talk about more when we get into the sensual piece of it, but like so many of us weren't taught about our bodies. We weren't taught how to actually ground our own selves to when the head is spinning with so many thoughts, or we feel overwhelmed by life. We have not been taught that the body is actually a vessel for wisdom and for healing. And we have healing within ourselves. We don't always have to go outside of ourselves. It's not always going to be talk therapy. Sometimes we need to actually talk to the intelligence of the body.
Yes. Now, how does that lace into your tantric work?
So with tantra, right? So again, I want to clear this.
And I know that's like such a easy question that I asked.
And like when you Google tantra, and like even before I started my training, I was like, oh, it's gonna be about all this sex and magic and ooh. And it was like, oh shit. Wait, I like signed up for this training, and it's healing pieces of me that like it wasn't even on my radar to heal. Like rewriting your sexual story, like taking your power back, like becoming a grown ass human being around your truth about sex, taking parts that were taken away from you. So tantra actually means woven, because it's weaving back the body and the mind that got disconnected through any type of form of trauma, whether that was sexual trauma or physical abuse. And when those instances happen, like it's like a scissor, something starts to get cut off, and all those parts numb in the body. And so when we begin to awaken things like the inner child having a voice, feeling like there's like the unspoken needs that weren't met from our parents, our father and our mother, right? Because both of those represent the divine masculine and the divine feminine in our lives. And if those aren't healed, how can we actually feel like we're being supported by those energies in our lives? So there's a lot of balancing work. It's so Ooh, it's layers. It's layers, and we are layers, and we are full of so much depth. But a lot of times we just try to hit the surface,
Yes.
because the body, the brain, excuse me, not the body,
Mm.
the brain is telling you that there's some easy, quick fix. There's like, oh, I'm just gonna go to one therapy session, or I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
oh, right, or
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go see this one, person who I heard can support me around my mental health. And there's so many different layers of who we are as human beings that we've tried to push away and start, instead of bringing like compassion and acceptance
Yeah.
and exploration. Like, what if you actually got curious to who you are? What if you got curious to, there's deeper pieces of me? And as I begin to discover and connect with these deeper pieces of me, what I do is I actually form a deeper relationship with myself.
Mm.
And that's self-love right
Mm.
there. And that journey never ends. And I think people need, or I don't want to say need, if we could reframe that from thinking that there is something wrong with you, or
Yes.
there's something you need to change or need to fix, or you're broken or you're damaged. I mean, we all come into the world, which I'll talk about that next with the family constellation. We come into
Yes.
the world with so much, through our families. We come in through so much, through our environments, and if we don't, if we don't seek those things out, what they do is they end up becoming burdens and crutches in our lives
Yes.
that we know and we can feel that there's something there, but until we actually shine a light on it and say, oh, that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, wow, I can see something new here, or I opened up some space in my body. Because a lot of times what happens with traumas is the nervous system gets locked up and blocked.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
when all these opportunities and all this good and all this love and abundance wants to come your way, your body is like, it's
Can't.
repelling.
Yes.
Actually physically repelling the stuff in our lives that we want. Excuse me, my nose is running. Winter be
Yes.
over.
Spirit is moving. I mean, that's one
Moving.
of the. Oh, look at that nice sun
Yeah,
thing.
I
But
know.
that's one of the beautiful things about healers and the work that you come into. Once you become a vessel for the light, a vessel for spirit, your nose is gonna run. You're gonna burp. You're gonna like have all kinds of things.
All
Yeah.
of that. All of that. You're gonna be gassy.
So listen, get used to
Get used to it. Because it's a
Get
form
used
of
to it.
release. You're releasing energy.
Yes.
I burped. I was in my energy healing training program when I was like pregnant. They thought I was like trying to make everybody laugh, because I just couldn't. I was like burping uncontrollably with a few farts in there. Like I just couldn't. My body was just doing what it needed to do. And
Exactly. Exactly.
the body knows much better than that. Let's just say that a part of this healing journey is taking the masks off. It's not about perfection. It's not about looking good. Yes, does it actually?
We like that. We like looking good,
right?
but it ain't it.
And it does bring your it does actually bring your physical beauty out, right? Because we radiate from the inner to the outer.
Yes. Yes.
So people can see your joy, they can see your grief, they can see your anger, they can see all of your things coming out. So like it's messy, but
Yes.
it's fine that way, because when we let other people see us and witness us, that's a piece of our healing. And it's also part of what human connection really is. We all want to feel. We all
Yes.
want to be connected. We all want like, wow, that story, or wow, like like, I know she had that ugly cry, and I know she let something go in there. Wow, that is so incredibly beautiful and sacred. Like
Yes.
those,
Yes.
the thing that you thought was beautiful, like the perfect hair and the perfect makeup and the perfect fashion and all of that stuff. Like, yes, that is part of beauty, but
Mhm.
like beauty is there's depth in it. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Now,
yeah,
you talked about in the tantric work, and even you mentioned it in the somatic work, that support, right? The framing of support and how important that is to have, to the feeling of being propped up by something greater than you, whether that's, feminine or masculine, which is a big part of your family constellation work. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
yes, yes. So when people hear the word constellation, and including myself, I was like, is that's got something to do with the stars, right?
Right.
Like that's definitely astrology, right? And
Right.
no, a constellation actually is the energetic system that we share with our family.
Mhm.
So if you ever have felt like you are carrying the weight of, somebody else or something else, like that feels heavy, or you feel like, wow, no matter how many different Tinder dates I go on, I keep dating the
The
same
same dude.
person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't realize like what our families that came before us carried. I mean, there's so much. There is slavery, colonization, there's Holocaust, there's infidelity, abuse, addiction, abortion, early deaths in a family. All anytime there was a trauma in our family, um it delayed something in our family system, and everybody feels it, whether no matter what their reaction is. It's an energy, it's a heaviness. You can feel it, you can
Mhm.
physically
Mhm.
feel it in your body and in your energy field. And so a lot of us think, because sometimes, some of my clients are 50, 60 years old, and they've been carrying that energy with them their whole life, that starts to really become what they think is their reality.
Right.
And so, although we think that our families want us to be just like them, and we become just like them in a lot of ways, they do not want us to suffer in the
Mhm.
ways that they did. They really want us to do it differently and do it from our highest selves. When we choose this pathway, right, it not only heals us, it also heals them, because they weren't able to have that healing. They weren't able to overcome that challenge. And so, in this healing work we do, your ancestors are actually giving you the permission to move forth.
Yeah.
And when you get done, it feels like you lifted a weight off. It's not something, I can talk to you for hours about it, but it's something that the body has to experience. And you're breathing, you're speaking, and I'm not just facilitating the healing, you are also facilitating the healing
Yes.
as well.
Well,
And
I mean, I can say that I've
our,
witnessed
yeah.
you
Hmm.
facilitate constellations for other people. And it is so masterful what you do, because of the fact that it is so many moving parts to each person's story. And to be able to give voice to those parts that most need a voice, to pinpoint that quickly, efficiently, and in a manner that brings the room together. Like, sister girl, you are masterful at that work, like beyond, beyond. The amount of movement that I saw with my own etheric eyes that happened in those spaces, the amount of energy that moved off of people to where you could see it. Masterful. And I mean, yes, I want everybody to like visit this work, visit Leora, find your own family constellation practitioner, but find one that, you know, has some skin in the game as far as they know the work because they've been the work. So I just wanted to thank you, like, just for the work that you do in this world, because so many people are waking up now to, wait a second, there's something greater for me. I want to find it. Yeah. And the work that you do in the world helps people do that. So I just want to thank you on behalf of myself, because I have been, I have had a constellation with Leora. 3 actually, because we did one on money, we did one on feeling supported, and we did one on love. And that was a doozy.
And don't forget, you actually did 5 because you were also a representative in 2 people's constellations.
That's right.
And in 5 constellations, and you've gotten to see what it feels like, you know, to just receive your own and also be a representative. So for people that want to know what a representative that is, when I'm doing group constellations, people sometimes are chosen to represent somebody's ancestor. And when you're in like this energetic field of the family, you take on the feeling of the ancestor. You can and it really helps to bring information so that the healing.
It's crazy how that whole thing works, because as someone else is represented, and I won't get into the detail of, you know, what actually occurred, but just the feeling of it, and feeling that person's father present with me, moving through me on behalf of my sister in that moment.
Yes.
That to me was, and I got the goosebumps now, like even like thinking about it and pulling myself back into that experience. It is really masterful.
It's masterful. And like what I love about it is that like you are seeing somebody else as a representative. You're seeing them step in and feel the emotions that maybe that ancestor never got to grieve for their, you know, child that died early, or they never got to grieve for the marriage that broke apart. Sometimes it's even expressing anger, right? And again, because the energy the energy system is shared in the family, that healing then comes forth to the client who is receiving the constellation. And everybody gets healing in it.
That is so true. I mean, you can look at testimonials from, you know, different practitioners that have, you know, that are in this work, as far as, you know, after it's done, and people send in messages like, I got a phone call from my father that I haven't spoken to in 30 years.
Yes.
You know, my sister came like to see me and I haven't spoken to her since or, you know, my dad called and said, I'm sorry, or whatever. Like, I've seen, witnessed for myself, like that is what that work is all about.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll share 2 quick client stories. One is I'm going to share a recent story, and I'm going to share my story from my very second constellation when I was literally practicing. Sorry, my nose is running. I'm releasing.
That's okay. Well, let's give a check, because for some reason they've decided to mow everybody's grass around me. Is the sound good? You're good? Okay.
I hear nothing but you.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
fantastic, darling. So a recent client,
Yes.
one of my clients. So I also want to say, although a lot of my company is called Goddess on the Go, and I did start off with just working with women. I work with women, I work with men, I work with teenagers, and I work with children. So
Everybody.
everybody is welcome. So one of my clients, she got a constellation for her fiance as a gift on New Year's Eve. This particular New Year's Eve. And in that constellation, we worked on some things, some relationships with family members. And this client especially had some unresolved things with a particular family member. And this particular family member, who is actually his father, reached out to him like 15 minutes before New Year's and wished him a happy New Year. So that was December 31st. Okay, then I get a text message about 3 weeks ago. Oh, the father found their address, called them, was outside the house, came to see my client, and they had this amazing conversation. He has children from another marriage as well, and him and the father are actually going to go down together to see his sons, and they really talked about healing, like healing this passed down grief and anger and things that are unresolved, and like really talk about doing it differently for the next generation, for these young ones that are coming up. And I just was like, wow,
Yes.
wow. So
I love that.
right? So things about the constellations for people to know is like after you finish a constellation, like you definitely feel lighter. You've released a whole lot in the practice.
Yes.
And a constellation can actually take, so my other friend who does them, her teacher told her that a constellation can actually take up to 2 years for the process,
Everything to move through.
everything to move through. So then this is just my second client that I ever did, who when I tell you, I was like, all right, y'all, like I'm practicing, so don't judge me. Like
Yes.
I pray it works out for everybody. I pray. So it was one of the actually most powerful constellations I've done.
Yes.
And in this particular constellation, my client came to me. Her original issue was she wanted to be in a healthy romantic relationship, and she kept dating unemotional men.
Mm-hmm.
So she came in, and what we had discovered was that she was in the process of buying her mother an apartment. She didn't even have her own apartment. So she was pouring all this energy into her mother. How could a partner step in?
Right.
Mom was taking the partner's
Role.
space.
Yeah.
So immediately after the constellation, she stopped the sale. 6 months later, oh, by the way, she had never met her father. Had no information on him, had no way. The mother pretended that she had no information, didn't remember anything about him. So she was like, okay. 6 months later, my client was married. She met her partner. In 3 weeks, they were engaged. She met him.
Oh, wow.
She said, Leora, I just knew. I
And
just
the one is the one, the
know,
one is the one, right?
right? She was like, there was no doubt. He's like, nobody I had ever met in my life.
That's amazing.
In that same month, she had done 23andMe 2 years. By the way, 2 years before.
Yeah.
She got a hit that there was a
No,
match.
on her for her daddy.
No, for just somebody in her
Oh,
family.
sorry. I'm too excited.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get So she reaches out to him on Facebook because she's like, oh, I found him on Facebook. Great. He never reaches back out, but she notices that one of her girlfriends is friends with him. She reaches out to this girlfriend. The girlfriend said, oh, I think I know who your dad is. 1 year, one day before the year anniversary of her constellation, she met her dad for the first time. Come to find out, he's an entrepreneur just like her. I mean, so beautiful, right? And then we did a whole other constellation because, things change, and her and her husband were having a problem conceiving. And we cleared just some things about like what she saw in her childhood, what was role model to her as a mother, like all of those fears, right? And literally, no lie, 3 weeks later, the girl was pregnant and she just gave birth to twins.
Sorry, that's not, oh my gosh.
I mean,
I'm
saying this work.
The work.
It's not me. It's
work.
like what happens in your family's energy field when it gets cleared and what can then come through.
Yes. I look at it as a co-creation with your ancestry that has always been around you.
Yes.
Looking for an opening, right?
But you've been too angry and pissed off to let it in.
Yes.
You've been like, this is been my reality for so long. And it's like we really, as human beings, like we can choose to stay resentful and resigned about things in our lives. And we can be so right that things will never change, or we can just be like,
Right.
I'm going to take a leap. I'm really terrified. I don't think it'll work. Like, I'm willing to try something different because what I've been doing over and over again for all of these many years hasn't changed. Yeah. So let me take a chance.
Open the door.
Let me open the door and see what might be on the other side for me.
Yes. Now I have to ask you about, because a lot of my, I don't know, audacity, my sexual audacity lately has come from you. So I really want to ask you about women and pleasure and how can we do better? Because, and I'll just say a little story. I went on retreat with Leora and we had this practice where all the ladies on the retreat, we had to dance in front of each other and like dance, like dance, like
I own it, like be
embodied dance, right? And I remember being so like uncomfortable with that, like from I don't like my body, I'm not comfortable with my skin. She looks better than me. You can make fun of me, or like this is going to be somebody's laughter for later. Like what, all the dialogue, right, that was running. But ever since that day, or ever since that retreat, sis,
come on, tell me.
I have like been easing more and more into the audacity of my own pleasure, of my own self, right? To where like you go and you buy a nice piece of lingerie and I'll just stare at myself in the mirror for a while. Or I'll put on some music and be like, okay, what would Leora do?
WWLD. I'm gonna get bracelets made. No, I'm just kidding.
You should, because it's like, how can I embody more of my femininity? Because I realized, through my journey, I had to lay in my masculinity for a very long time, and my wounded masculinity, to where like I have to bring in the money. I need to protect myself. I need to make sure that I'm, counting 7 steps ahead. I need all of these things, right? To then like be paused by this very feminine goddess that's asking me to lean into my sensuality. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What did you say? So can you talk a little bit about that? And like the seizing that you see in the women in your groups when you ask to embody a practice like that? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one that like just straight like went, really? You sure you want me to do this? Like you want to do this, Booty? Really? Tell us, please.
Listen, I think for so many women, I mean, listen, I am not an overnight story at all. Like I myself struggled with that at the very beginning because we live in this patriarchal world, and so many women are felt this superwoman complex where we have to do everything by ourselves, and like this whole world of like better or more, or we have to be producing. And so like if we can even lay those words to rest about better or doing more, and we can even start like just as rest being a space of pleasure, right? Because we're always going and we're wired to give to everybody else but ourselves. I mean, quick little story, if you can see this cut on my finger. Yeah, this cut on my finger was from not asking for help. This ring got cut, stuck. It opens up on this.
Ow.
And I was picking up a water jug, and instead of asking somebody for help, which I could have asked a complete stranger, and I'm sure they would have helped me. And that thought went off, and I was like, oh, I got this. So first, when I lift the jug up, the ring caught. I had to lean down and get snow off the ground, like oil to like, I'm like, Jesus, what can I use? Something? Right. And then I'm carrying the jug. Instead, again, asking for help. I'm like, oh, I think I can make it. And my body was like, you need to stop and take a rest. No, I'm going to make it 3 more steps. What happens? The jug of water falls out of my hands. I didn't realize it was fragile. I'm talking about one of these alkaline water jugs.
Yes.
Water goes everywhere. So like, even though I've been doing this work for a long time, even I go through those hard wirings of, I got this.
Yeah.
I will do this by myself. And so the next day I bought a massage table, and I actually asked for help to bring it up. And I was like, right, asking for help. You don't have. So it's like the awareness. So let's talk about this though.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with pleasure is like, it's not an overnight journey, and there are layers to it. And everybody has a unique relationship to what is pleasurable for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if your body and your head is like disconnected and it's spinning, we can't even hear what pleasure is, what it needs. And it's like this appetite that it needs gentle allowance and practice to build. And if pleasure is rushed, like, she can't see the gifts that are right inside of us. Like, looking outside, you can't see, like, we're here in the Midwest, we're like going into spring, and like you can't see the tree buds. All what you see is the branches. You can't see that there are things that are starting to bloom and come to life, because you're depleted and you're taking care of everybody else, and your body is completely worn out. Your nervous system is fried.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to give permission to learn to discover our bodies slowly. And
Yes.
sometimes it's just like closing your eyes, feeling the pulsation in your fingertips. You know, we can all do this together, right?
Yeah.
Noticing where you might be feeling heat. Noticing if there's any tension. We don't even take time to notice our own bodies because we're going so fast. And so when we begin to start to slow down, we can start to hear, not from here though. We can hear. And I really want to talk about, we hear from the womb space as women.
Yes. And for those that are listening to the podcast and you weren't watching, what Leora was referring to is listening from the depth space, that womb space, heart space, like listening from your pussy, like for lack of a better term, than focusing solely on the mind. Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Like, pussy is always speaking to us. And we as women have been so disconnected. Even hearing that word can trigger things for a lot of women.
Well, I'm sure. I just
right? No, I want no. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people will turn the podcast off when they hear something like that, because that word is such a trigger for them.
Yes.
But it's because it was taken from us and turned into something, a word that was dirty. Instead of realizing, if we go back into ancient African culture, like, the pussy was worshipped.
Yes.
And she's still around the world at the top of buildings, you know, like.
Listen, the greatest thing I ever heard was that in Rwandan culture, it is common to, like, that the man knows how to make their woman squirt. And if they don't, that's a problem. Like, it's common.
Yeah. And that comes from, that comes from pussy worshiping. And there's nothing wrong with that. But women have to learn how to know how to do that by themselves as well too. It's so important that you love on her and listen to her, because if you listen to her, she will tell you exactly what's in your pleasure and what's not. She will be like, oh, really? It's not actually in your pleasure to go hang out with that person. It's actually not in your pleasure to take that opportunity. Right? And you'll start hearing the things that are in your pleasure.
Yes.
And like, she is such a compass and really our intuitive guide. And so the more that we listen to her, talk to her, pay attention to her, even touch her at times, it doesn't always mean self-pleasure. Sometimes it's putting your hands on her and like grounding her.
Yes.
or putting hands above her and even asking her if she wants to be touched.
Yes.
That's another piece, is that sometimes we're so wired to just go to self-pleasure. And
Listen, what was the study that was like most people self-pleasure now solely to sleep? It's not even for pleasure. It's like, I need the release in order to go to sleep.
But what pleasure is different from is that it's not always about the release. Pleasure is about enjoying the moment. It's not about getting to a goal.
The destination. Yes.
It's really like, how do I actually enjoy? How am I stroking? How am I touching? How am I pouring love and pleasure into myself? And so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Pleasure can come just from us having this conversation. I find
Yes.
such pleasure in our connection whenever we talk. And like women, we share just being around each other. We give off the chemical oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone that happens when you actually have sex. So we feed each other a lot of times as women. And I think that's also why it was so hard during the pandemic for so many women, especially because we're so used to gathering and being in community and stuff like that. And when that was taken away, it's like,
it was almost like losing an appendage.
it was. I think we are definitely we're still reeling from that. Along with 2020, like it's a lot for human beings. Like we're coming into a whole, like a new reality that will never be the same. We will never go back like before, like 2019 pre-pandemic. That part is over. And like I think a lot of us haven't even grieved that part. We're still going back and trying to like reach for familiarity.
Well, we're trying to recreate what we lost. We're trying to reestablish connections that are gone. We're trying to reestablish like these linkages to our past self, or like pieces that we didn't get to enjoy, and we feel very slighted, or you're pissed off because I was supposed to be able to do this, or I should be here by now, or like they stunted my growth, or whatever the thing is, right? There's a lot of reconciliation happening across the board.
This is like, I think this is like a prime time for people to really dig deep into healing, because like we were talking about, it's so layerous. Now it's not just been your family and like lifing. It really is like we've been through a pandemic where we lost a big part of the human population. And that is impacting our grief, I think, in ways that we don't even acknowledge. I think collectively we're all carrying some grief together.
Something. And on that note, how can people find you to work with you if they have been sparked in any way, shape, or form? And what offerings do you have on the table now that they could take advantage of?
Yes. So my website is goddess-onthego.com.
Got it.
And so you can just fill out a form right there. You can do an exploration call with me to see, like, is it family constellation work? Right now I'm doing what are customized VIP sessions, where it might be a mix of family constellation and somatic healing. It's just not one thing. So it's 90-minute VIP sessions. Again, men, women, children. I can do them virtually or in person. And then
we're in Detroit.
I'm in Detroit.
Yep.
And then the other thing I have is a 6-month program called the Goddess Magnetism. And this is for people who really thrive in healing in community. And it's really working on parts of connecting deeper with your purpose, healing relationships, connecting to parts that have been like cut off around love and abundance. And it is, like we said, getting deeper into feeling free in your sensuality.
Yes. And you said that was 6 months.
It's a 6-month program.
6-month program. So you got it here. You can check out Leora's work, like she said, at goddess-onthego.com. She's also on Instagram at goddessonthego and TikTok.
The number one.
With the number one. And you'll find all of that information below in the description box. But I just want to, one last thing. What do you feel like is one thing that we can all do that would help us embody more of ourselves? And I know I just put you on the spot.
Yeah, you know what? For me and a lot of my clients, music without performance, like turning on a song that emotes something that you normally, like a lot of times we're so used to listening to music and dancing in the mirror and it's all performative, or we listen to just sad songs and we reminisce. But when we actually hear certain sounds and then we close our eyes and we go in and we ask the body to just move with the music,
yes,
it can move out all kinds of emotions that we normally don't give ourselves permission to feel, because like I said, we're going at 90 miles per hour with our foot all the way down on the pedal. So this helps us to slow down. It helps to listen. Again, the body has answers that the head doesn't. And we don't need to analyze every single experience. Like even after we move, we don't have to say, so like, what did I just move out?
Exactly. Yes.
Trusting the process, trusting that your body moved out whatever it needed to, that was just a time for you to be with the body and let the body do its own magic.
Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you, Leora.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I also have a Spotify. So if you need inspiration,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you need inspirations for playlists, I'm at Leora Edut.
Got it. And we'll put that in the description box as well. But we're all going to jam together. We're all going to jam together. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Having me. This was so awesome.
Amazing. And again, you can find Leora at goddess-onthego.com, Goddess on the Go 1 on Instagram and TikTok. And please dance along with us on Spotify. I love you all. Thank you, Leora. Until next time.